Left of the box. But also another instant of Justin Trudeau being a liar because, you know, the Liberals lie, the Conservatives lie. Pierre Poilievre doesn't even know how to tell the truth. But the Liberals are also pretty bad at it. When Justin Trudeau first got into office, one promise that basically helped him get into office with the majority back then was his promise to redo how we vote, to get rid of first past the post. Now, first past the post simply means whoever gets the plurality wins. Let's break it down for simplicity's sake. If you have 5 candidates, but you have 101 votes, all the candidates get 20 votes, but one candidate gets that extra vote, then that one candidate gets in with a majority. So it's super frustrating how that works. And we see it all the time. Like, it's not uncommon to see somebody get the majority of seats and the majority power in this country with only 40% of votes. Justin Trudeau had this little press conference where he's like, yeah, it was a mistake, not following through on that promise. And Christo Avalos, a political analyst person who used to be a lot more active on YouTube, you promised to make every vote count, and ranked ballots do not do that. A proportional system gets us closest to making every vote count, and you know that. You just lied to give people false hope. Everything Poilievre destroys is your legacy. So basically, Christo is pointing out that maybe if Justin Trudeau had actually enacted some sort of proportional representation, then we wouldn't have to worry about Poilievre right now potentially getting into power.
And mistakes made over 9 years. You reflect on some of your successes there, and what you see as what you want to leave and make an impact on the country through your decision making. What do you see as, if I could have that one back, I would do it differently the next time?
Electoral reform.
Yeah, music to my ears. You
said
that just for me, right?
I don't say that just for you. Actually, in one sense, I do say it just for you, because I know in just about any other interview,
I was going to raise it.
Any other interview, the interviewer's eyes glaze over, go, okay, yeah, but give me something real that you regret, right?
Yeah.
And the thing that kind of, gets me all worried and stuff is that Justin Trudeau might pivot and say, oh yeah, electoral reform, we're definitely going to do that this time, as a way for him to try to get in. But it's like the boy who cried wolf at this point. Nobody would believe him, even if he were to do it. And the thing is he won't. He won't. That's the thing. He won't do this because it doesn't benefit the Liberals. But ranked choice ballot does benefit the Liberals as well, even more so in some instances. But a little bit more from this.
I said, no. This is real. For me, I look at where the world is going and where polarization has happened and where excesses of populism have been able to come in, and the winner-take-all version of first past the post that we have right now, where you can get elected as the MP for 100% of people in your riding with 32% of the vote if it's properly divided, if it's divided amongst other parties, is not just devaluing the votes of so many others, but it's giving you a false sense of, being the only legitimate voice for your community. And if I could do things differently, I don't know exactly how I would have, but I certainly would have done things differently around electoral reform to try and make sure that we are not going to be fighting this next election under first past the post again.
So he goes on and he says something about like he would prefer ranked choice, which isn't actually what he said. And there's a video.
It was a difficult
from David Dole, the Rational National, who goes into a little bit of detail on this. And I strongly suggest that people go and watch this.
We need to know that when we cast a ballot, it counts. That when we vote, it matters. So I'm proposing we make every vote count. We are committed to ensuring that the 2015 election will be the last federal election using first past the post.
Again, that was one of 3,000 times that was mentioned during campaigning. It is just such an incredible broken promise. It is one thing to have something in your platform that you barely talk about. It's whatever. This was like, you could argue the number one policy in terms of an actual policy, the number one policy that they argued for, and broken within a couple of years.
Now, the thing is that what David was also pointing out in this is that in that clip that we just saw of Justin Trudeau, he was saying that he would make sure that every vote counts. But then in this little back and forth that he was having, he was saying, oh yeah, we'll go ranked choice ballot. And he gets into more of the excuse that he was arguing with the people. Let's see if the second half of the clip shows it that he posted.
It didn't happen. And I question some of this.
It looked a little bit cynical to say, oh, we can't figure out a path, and so we're gonna, just burn it to the ground, never talk about it again. That's probably not how you would feel about it.
I made two big mistakes on this one. The first one, because of some very strong voices in my caucus who were very, very clear that they wanted to at least be able to make an argument for proportional representation, which I feel very, very strongly would be a mistake for Canada. I left the door open to proportional representation instead of ranked ballot, even within my own team. And that made a whole bunch of people who heard me say, last election is first past the post, translate that into he's going to bring in proportional representation, which I was not, which I never was going to. And I wasn't clear enough on that. We can have the argument about.
Yeah, so basically he was never going to follow through with his promise of making every vote count because ranked choice doesn't do that.
For a proportional system. So to make it a little more clear here, there are two main voting systems. So winner take all, which is first past.
Now, David doesn't go into a lot of this, but he does mention that this is from Fair Vote, and just shows some graphs of like, here's where the popular vote is, here's first past the post, alternative seats, all that sort of stuff. And how ranked choice doesn't actually make that much of a difference versus proportional representation, but he says that there's a link in the description box that people can go to. And that link is this. This is the website from Fair Vote Canada, fact-checking Justin Trudeau on electoral reform. He said we should have immediately shut down talk about proportional representation and confess Liberals were deliberately vague in order to appeal to Fair Vote Canada advocates. And that's from an article. So on October 1st, 2024, Premier Justin Trudeau repeated one of his greatest regrets was not using the 2015 majority government obtained with 39.5% of the vote just force through a voting system he wanted, a winner-take-all ranked ballot system, properly called alternative vote. Alternative vote replicates the problems of first past the post. In some elections, it can produce even more disproportional results. In the only OECD country where it used at national level, Australia has helped to entrench a two-party system for almost 100 years. So the ranked choice ballot, or the one that they also call alternate vote, it doesn't actually help, but it actually entrenches this idea of just two parties. And here in Canada, with the first past the post, that's pretty much what we have right now, because it's only ever been the Liberals or the Conservatives in power. We haven't had another party other than them in power because of the first past the post. An overwhelming majority of Canada's, fully 87%, in a 2022 Ecos poll, rightfully reject the idea that any single party should be able to change the voting system to one preferred by their party. Almost every country in the OECD that has reformed their electoral system has done it through multi-party agreement. In 2016, the NDP and Greens went out of their way to offer compromise solutions, including proportional systems that included a ranked ballot and incremental approaches that would have added a very small element of proportionality to Canada's electoral system. The attempts to negotiate were ignored. In 2024, all the Bloc, Greens, NDP, and Independent MPs, 3 Conservatives and 39 Liberal Party MPs, voted for a motion by NDP Lisa Marie Barron for a nonpartisan National Citizens Assembly on electoral reform, which would have fairly considered all options. Despite 76% of Canadians in support, this attempt to find common ground was rebuffed by Prime Minister too. Fact-checking Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau talking points in the interview included several misleading statements that require correction. Trudeau implied that his preferred system, alternative vote, is not a winner-take-all system like first past the post. There is no debate. It's cut and dry. Alternative vote is another winner-take-all system. Political scientists usually bundle first past the post and alternative vote together in a family of winner-take-all systems. They call it plurality majority. And so we can see it on the graph here. So this is what Justin Trudeau wanted, is just over here, versus proportional representation. You have mixed member proportional, list RP, single transferable vote that elects multiple winners. Trudeau suggested that adopting alternative vote could help mitigate polarization. Research looking into 36 democracies from 2000 to 2019 shows countries that use proportional representation have lower levels of polarization than those who use winner-take-all systems. Because in this video that he did, he said, you know what? It'd be bad for the country in the future if we tried to do anything. No, it would just be bad for the Liberals. The only OECD country that uses alternative vote nationally is Australia, and identity-based polarization is far worse in Australia with AV than it is in Canada. So that's alternative vote. So average strength of polarization by type and country. So we have Denmark, idea-based polarization, identity-based polarization. And you can see it getting higher and higher. There's the USA right there. And we're kind of in the middle right there. Trudeau claims that proportional representation makes MPs accountable only to parties instead of local voters and communities. These statements were so obviously untrue that Liberal MP Nathaniel Erskine-Smith attempted to interject twice to rebut them, saying, I don't think any advocate in Canada is arguing doing away with local representation. Do open list, Prime Minister talked right over him. All credible models of proportional representation for Canada are designed to maintain a strong local representation. Local representation has been a core value of every commission and assembly in Canada that recommended PR. All models of proportional representation for Canada means MPs are directly elected as individuals by local voters to represent voters in a specific geographic area. So I'm not going to go over all of this, even though there's not too much more to go over. But basically, proportional representation is the way to go, and we should get there right now. It would just be so much better for everyone. And this idea that it would just lead to more polarization has been proven false. And Fair Vote often sends out like these little graphs that show like this is the government we got versus this is what the government we would have if there was proportional representation. And the thing is that even then some of the smaller fringe parties would actually have a little bit more power, but it drops down drastically for the people at the top with how much power they have. And even, actually, did David have it in his video here? Yeah, so here we go. So this is in Ontario, elections, Ontario 2022. So here we have percent of vote, so popular vote, the number of seats. And this is what first past the post did versus what winner take all is false majority. So here we can see that the Liberals and the NDP were virtually the same at the percentage of votes, so 23.9, 23.7. And yet, the Liberals only got 6.5% of the seats, and the NDP got 25% of the seats. So you can see how this first past the post can greatly not connect properly to how many seats the office has. It's so frustrating working in a first past the post because it really does do a good job of making people apathetic about politics when we're stuck in these systems. And then we finally had, you know, somebody saying, oh, we'll change that. And I know a lot of people who voted for Justin specifically because of that promise. And when he broke it, I think a lot of people just completely lost faith in any sort of politics or government whatsoever. It's very disappointing, and that needs to change.